CBDC is simply one kind of digital currency that the government would issue back and control. The Federal Reserve would accomplish this. With the full support of the U.S. government, this might be a different way to pay for things that has benefits, including settling payments right away, allowing transactions between countries, and making it easier for more people to access financial services. More than 130 countries have started looking into their own digital currencies that are backed by the government. China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and India have already initiated pilot programs. The digital euro pilot might start as soon as 2028. The US is still very far behind, even if there is more and more, and honestly, rather obvious information on the features of digital currency, by the way. These statements come from the United States Congress. The U.S. Congress has made it plain that XRP is allowed in the U.S. This isn't only for banks and other financial institutions. The U.S. Federal Reserve and other central banks across the world have said that XRP can be used for both domestic and foreign transactions. What does this mean? The U.S. Congress knows that things are changing around the world. Brazil, India, and other countries, China and other countries, are working with Ripple to set up their own central bank digital currency. They are utilizing the XRP ledger to do this. The US doesn't want to miss out on this change. And guess what company they're working with? Yes, Ripple. Welcome back to Moneyside, the place to go for all things XRP. The US is going in the same direction as the BRICS countries Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, who have worked together to create a central bank digital currency that everyone can use. Let me show you a video that goes into detail about talks between Ripple and the U.S. Federal Reserve about CBDCs as far back as 2015. This historical context clearly shows how Ripple and the U.S. have worked together behind the scenes. Even though Ripple and the SEC are having public fights, this partnership was a clear sign that Ripple was going to win the SEC litigation. Do you remember when Ripple pitched the FedNAB payment system to the Federal Reserve in 2015? The Fed's official announcement of the system didn't directly recognize Ripple, but a closer look shows some signs. The Federal Reserve talked about the possibility of working with a blockchain startup that could make payments faster, taking only 3 to 5 seconds to complete. Gary Gensler has always talked about how Ripple could be useful for the U.S. Federal Reserve. Before he had started working there, SEC was suing Ripple. Gensler was sure that the Federal Reserve will be able to use XRP and Ripple for payments, both in the US and around the world. Let's move on to what's been happening lately. Riverbank, a well-known Ripple payment partner that uses the Ripplet system, is now formally part of the FedNet payment system. Let's take this apart. Riverbank isn't simply a bank. It's a payment processor that uses Riplet's Xcurrent and Zrapid platforms. Both of these sites use XRP in its ledger to get money when they need it. It's clear that Zrapid Xcurrent and Ripplet are all part of Riverbank's integration into FedNet. All of these will be based on XRP. This means that the FedNet payment system is ready to use XRP to meet its liquidity needs in transactions that transcend borders. So as XRP's usefulness and use cases grow, we should expect its value to go up. This is good news for your investment if you have XRP and are monitoring this. This use of XRP in regular banking systems is more than simply a sign of how useful the cryptocurrency may be. It's a sign of how global finance is changing that. Traditional banks are starting to see how fast, cheap, and efficient blockchain technology, like Ripple's are really seeing a change in the way things work. Also, Gary Gensler's support and the actions of institutions like Riverbank that followed are just the beginning. Now, back to the point. The value of XRP and how important it is becoming. We talked about how the U.S. Federal Reserve is interested in it and how the U.S. as a whole is leaning toward using it. But it's not just the U.S. that sees the promise of XRPs. The BRICS countries and even the European Union, which is working on a digital euro initiative, are looking into what it can do. You may watch our movies on how XRP is being used in Europe's digital euro initiative and the BRICS nations CBDC for more information. To repeat what we've said before, the US isn't just looking at XRP as a possible central bank digital currency which we've talked about in another video. They're also interested in using it to make cross-border transactions easier. This isn't only about digital currency from central banks. It also applies to financial transactions. In the US and around the world, let's look into what this means for the value of XRP. As more and more people start using XRP, its inherent worth is sure to be affected, especially by big financial players like the Federal Reserve. The usefulness